Rock Podcast, talking all things Disney with your hosts, Aljon Go and Dave Bossert.
Welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. Every week, we take you behind the scenes of all the great Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, and so much more. It's a show about all things Disney and pop culture, and I'm your pop culturist host, Aljon Go, musician, longtime Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars fan, and you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, author, and welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. And I'm back in the palatial Skull Rock Los Angeles studios this week. That's right. I am back in town.
Yeah.
If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. And Aljon, I've been looking forward to this show. This is just you and me. It's Aljon and Dave, the Skull Rock Smackdown.
Smacketh down.
I kind of called it that because I know you're a big WWE wrestling fan.
I am.
So, I want our audience to know that, periodically, Aljon and I just want to do a show together and just talk about stuff that's on our minds. And that's what we're going to do today. We have guests booked and interviews recorded that take us out to the end of June. But every once in a while, Aljon and I like to have a conversation and talk about things that are on our mind. That's what we're doing today, right, Aljon?
Absolutely. And by the way, you're listening to this on the heels of what I would assume was a really great Mother's Day, because we're recording this Mother's Day morning. It drops Monday. So happy Mother's Day to your significant other, Nancy. Happy Mother's Day to my wife, and happy Heavenly Mother's Day to my mommy. So
yeah, and happy Mother's Day to Kristen, your wife. And I'm going to be talking to my mother.
Yeah, your mom.
Who's 92 and a half.
Yeah,
now.
yeah, your mom.
I'm going to be talking to her later on today.
Hey, happy Mother's Day.
There you go.
Yeah. I actually had to do some Disney shopping at the Disney store using the app, and I got my wife. She loves collecting the Disney dresses, Dave. You know what I'm talking about? The really nice dresses that have the theme on it, like the Haunted Mansion dress or the Orange Bird.
Yeah.
So she's got a few of these
skirts or dresses.
The dresses, right?
Full-on dresses.
Full-on dresses.
I've seen skirts too.
Yeah. They have them all. So I got one for the Matterhorn for her. Which is great, and it came and it fit just wonderfully. They're just beautifully made, and now she has a collection of little dresses and such that are all Disney themed. So anytime she goes to the park and she feels a little dapper, if you will, she'll end up throwing that on. So
awesome,
pretty neat. Anyway, so big show in terms of just a Smackdown. Dave and I are going to be talking about a bunch of different things about pop culture. And just a hint, Dave, are we going to talk about the possible fatigue of fans with the Marvel franchise and superhero movies as a whole?
I think this is going to dovetail nicely into the fact that you and I both saw Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
And so I have to say, I'm going to save it for the segment.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
I'm going to save my opinions there.
Right on. Well, we're going to get into that, into our topics as well as the news. But before we do all that,
Skull Rock Podcast. It answers your email.
You got a note from a listener, Dave.
I did. Something, I got a note from our friend Chris Banis with the Grand Circle Tour podcast. And, I've been on their podcast a couple of times. It's a live podcast. And I have to tell you, she sent me a note saying, while listening to your part 1 interview with Bill Farmer, I heard Aljon mention some different Facebook pages and groups that you share out to. Since you've been on our live show and you share out with us as well, would you mind giving the Grand Circle Tour podcast a shout out as well? It would be greatly appreciated. Well, of course, Chris, absolutely. I'm a fan of the Grand Circle Tour podcast, and I think our listeners would probably enjoy it as well. So there's your shout out, Chris. And I appreciate you dropping us a note. And more importantly, I really appreciate the fact that you listen and give us a shout out on your podcast.
Absolutely. So now I'm going to be posting on your group. I'm sure Dave already posts on the group.
I post on their Facebook group every week.
There you go. I know you post every week.
I let their folks know what's going on with the Skull Rock podcast and who the guest is that week.
You know, which is great, because I know that when you post in some of the groups that we're members of, you'll come in on a Monday, I'll come in on a Tuesday, and then I'll tweet it, a couple times during the week, which is good tag team promotion.
There you go.
So it's
really
perfect.
Is,
perfect.
And I listen, we want to get the word out, especially when we have great guests, which is pretty much every week, you know?
Exactly. It's so much fun. So thank you. And by the way, Chris also wrote me and said, hey, by the way, since you're a music guy, make sure to include Bobby Caldwell in your tributes of entertainers who passed. He's such a talented individual who was able to transcend music genre of the soul, smooth jazz, or what I say, quote, blue-eyed soul, if you will. So a great artist. He had one of the best voices around. Thanks for all you do, Al, John, and Dave on the podcast, Chris. Yeah, so I think we did mention this in passing in March.
Thought we mentioned this like a month or so ago, you know. But if we didn't, our bad.
Yeah. So, obviously Bobby Caldwell, What You Won't Do for Love, which is just an amazing kind of double platinum, been on the charts back in 1978. It's been covered by so many people. He's also had, I guess, a lot of influence from the Rat Pack with his songs The Next Time I Fall from Neil Diamond and so many other things he did. But he will be missed for sure. Especially someone that has had such a great and lengthy career that Bobby Caldwell had as he passed at the age of 71. So, there you go. Very good. So, hey, if you have any questions or comments, like I said, our email is open all the time. Feel free to drop us that email. And for those Spotify listeners that are out there, just a little note that you can always send us feedback regarding the show using the Spotify app. All you have to do is click that Q&A, answer if you like this episode, and send us those questions, or leave a voicemail using the Spotify app, which is great. But of course, we're everywhere you find podcasts, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google, iHeartRadio, so many others. So please check that out. Amazon, of course, Amazon. Yeah. So I think we are ready to move on to
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
All right, in the box office. Can you believe it?
Wait a second.
Yes.
You skipped what we're watching again.
Oh, for heaven's sake, another one? Oh my gosh.
Come on.
You see, I'm going to leave it in here. I know I have one job. What we've been watching this week. I'm sorry, R.I.P. Don LaFontaine, but I think I'm going to have to get someone to do that voiceover for real, like Pablo Francisco. Do you know the comedian Pablo Francisco?
I've heard the name,
He's so good. He was on Mad TV for a little bit, and I interviewed him when I was on FM radio here in Nashville. He's just an amazing voiceover guy, but he's got so many impersonations that he does. He's kind of like a Joe Piscopo kind of talent, very talented. And he does In a World. He does that whole thing. So I may just have to ping Pablo and say, hey, could you do this for the Skull Rock podcast? That'd be great. I actually would love to have him on because Pablo's so funny.
We should book him.
Yeah, I'll have to reach out to Pablo. It's been years since I've talked to him, but I'll have to reach out to him anyway. So we've been watching a bunch of different things. Dave, you've been very busy.
I did. I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in IMAX. I like this movie, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about this later on in our show. But I have to tell you, while I was watching this film, I felt it was a bit darker than the previous two Guardians of the Galaxy movies. It was a little bit more darker. And I was thinking to myself, am I starting to get superhero fatigue?
Mhm.
You know, and we'll talk more about that, shortly. But generally, I would say I like this movie, but it is not as good as the first two.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still good, and it's still worth seeing on the big screen. I mean, incredible amount of visual effect shots in this movie. It was just unbelievable.
Well, while we're on the topic, shall I just chime in on my thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I really enjoyed it as well, more than I thought I would. Although, everybody knows I'm a huge Marvel fan, and I was really afraid that they were going to permanently kill off one of my favorites, Rocket. I don't want to spoil it, but I will tell you that he is the heart of the story, and I think it's great. And yes, is it dark? But I think they made it a point to say the stakes in this film are huge.
Yeah,
because this is they're a family. They're an adoptive family, which I love the story about it because they're all pretty much orphaned, kind of people, and they found family within themselves and find power within themselves. And our overarching character development over the course of the three films and the Avengers films, you were able to see them kind of grow up. And then you can see them deal with loss in this film, and I think it's great. But once again, I feel like this tone of this film could have easily been applied to Thor: Love and Thunder because the stakes were very high, and opposed to Thor: Love and Thunder, where the cancer storyline with Jane Foster was kind of made a comedic footnote to a lot of things. It did help propel the story, but I felt like there wasn't enough weight in terms of stakes for the characters. This one, you could certainly feel the weight of the stakes. So for me, it was a great note, a lot of tie-ins to previous Marvel films, especially their own films. So there, as I say, in storytelling for me, in songwriting especially too, it's a matter of setting things up, meeting expectations, and releasing all that. So they did a good job of building that anticipation, setting it up, and then paying it off, a series of payoffs. So I felt satisfied. And I thought the practical effects were great in this, as well as the CGI. I felt like they didn't rush it like I felt in Quantumania, if I were to analyze it some more, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I also give it 2 thumbs up. I actually saw it twice, Dave.
Oh, did you? Wow.
I liked it so much. I saw it twice.
I have to tell you though, because you mentioned Rocket, I really enjoyed his, learning his backstory, like where he came from, how he became who he is. And they really spent a lot of time showing us that, and I thought that was terrific. All right, we're going to talk more about that shortly. But I also watched a bunch of episodes for the second season of Sweet Tooth.
Ooh.
On Netflix, right? And so just as a reminder, Sweet Tooth is essentially the storyline is they're on a perilous adventure in a post-apocalyptic world. A boy who's half human and half deer searches for a new beginning with a gruff protector. And this stars Christian Convery, who stars as Gus, the half human, half deer kid. And his protector is Nanzo Anazi, who plays Tommy Jeopard.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, I really like this series a lot.
Right.
And I really have enjoyed season 1. Season 2 is now up on Netflix. I'd really highly recommend this to anybody. Don't be put off by the post-apocalyptic thing. I think this is really a story of relationships and looking for family and looking for his mother and all of this. It's a good story and it's a good premise. And I know that Netflix has already renewed this for a third and final season, and the showrunner said they're going to wrap it up very nicely for the audience in season 3.
Yeah.
So check out Sweet Tooth season 2 on Netflix. And then, Aljon, I watched 5 episodes of Muppets Mayhem on Disney Plus.
Whoa. That's
And
a lot.
I got to tell you, I just love, the Electric Mayhem band.
Yes.
And Dr. Teeth and Animal. Basically, to our audience, this is like a live action show with the Muppets band in it. And there is plenty of cameos like there used to be in the old Muppet Show. There's tons of cameos, Little Naz, Tommy Lee, Danny Trejo, Cheech and Chong is in one episode there. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. I was laughing. The writing is terrific. In fact, I want to try and see if we can get Bruce Lanoil. Our friend Bruce Lanoil, who does the voice of Timon. I want to see if we can get him back on the show to talk a little bit more about the Muppets, because I know he's got a lot of friends that worked on it. I'm not sure if he's done anything.
According to IMDb, he's on it.
He's on it. Okay, so I want to get Bruce back on to talk a little bit about Muppet Mayhem, but it's fantastic. And I know over the years the Muppets have been a bit hit and miss on some of the projects, but this is absolutely a hit to me. I love this Muppet Mayhem. You'll get a good laugh. Watch this on Disney Plus. You'll love it. I also have been keeping up on Ted Lasso on Apple Plus, and The Last Thing He Said to Me on Apple Plus with Jennifer Gardner.
Right.
As the episodes drop, I'm watching those. So that's what I've watched this past week. Aljon, I know you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3 twice.
Yeah.
What else have you been watching?
All right. So I saw Evil Dead Rise, and I come here, talking about horror movies. I had to go out there and see it. I'm a huge fan.
Hey, somebody has to see those movies.
Exactly. I see them, so you don't. But I mean, once again, I think it is good as not as a film in and of itself. It's good. It was not a waste of time. I felt like it was well done. However, as part of an Evil Dead series of films, it falls short. And part of the magic is gone. Pardon the pun, the magic, right? I mean, yes, it's about an evil book called the Necronomicon, so there's evil magic in there. But I felt like they tried to do the whole house in the woods, cabin in the woods type of horror film within the confines of an apartment complex, basically. So basically rinse and repeat, drop this people in to this situation, which is what I expected, but it just falls a little short. Just because there's so much campy, a little bit more campiness. There is a lot of that kind of splatter kind of horror that's involved there, but it's good. So it's a good 6 out of 10 for me. Not a waste of time. Now, the other film I did see is The Menu. So if you don't know about this particular film, and my wife was like, we got to watch The Menu. We got to watch The Menu because it is about a foodie culture. And it's a very weird twist on foodie culture because in this particular invite to a very ritzy dining experience with an internationally known celebrity chef, you are invited there for a reason, and that's because you've done bad in your lifetime. And the chef finds out about it and is going to correct those wrongs, right? That's the kind of twist, and there are a lot more twists in there, and it's good. It's kind of suspenseful. So definitely check out The Menu, and I have to give out. So it's actually listed, Dave, as a comedy horror. So the boilerplate reads: a young couple travels to a remote island to eat at an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises.
Well,
So-
you know something, a comedy, horror comedy. I could go for a horror comedy.
I would watch it because
Okay.
I literally the first 20 minutes of the film, my wife and I are scratching our heads going, what are we watching? This is so bizarre. And then you're like, oh, this is what we're watching. But you can stream it now. Shout out to Ralph Fiennes for incredible work as the head chef. Anna Taylor-Joy as Margot, and Nicholas Hoult, who plays Tyler, was from the X-Men movies, who played the Beast. And he's also very good as a huge fanboy of celebrity chefs. So,
Well, Ralph Fiennes is a fantastic actor.
Oh,
He
absolutely.
really is a terrific actor.
so much fun. So yeah, definitely check it out. And I too saw Muppets Mayhem. I saw the first episode. I'm intending to watch a lot more. And being a musician, I hate having to put that qualifier as a musician, but I laugh because there's so many things about the music industry that are worth making fun of. And the fact that they were signed to a contract in the 70s, the Electric Mayhem band, and they never made good on it because they're so just, bombed out of their mind in the bus. Of course, that's implied, right? That, that they never made the record. They don't even remember if they did or not, but they owe the record label some money, or a record. So they're going to go out there and try to help this ever-changing music industry with putting out an album. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't say enough good things about Muppet Mayhem. That's 2 thumbs up. You really enjoy it. I mean, look, if you like the Muppets, you're going to love this show.
Oh yeah, 100%. You know what I love about it, Dave, is that they didn't try to change the Muppets from what we know. I think some of the times when you watch some of the Muppet TV shows and things, it automatically turned people off. I think when they started doing the Muppets on primetime, they put an edge to the Muppets that was completely
out of character.
It's out of character. It's not what you know and love. It's like saying, it's like watching The Last Jedi and seeing Luke Skywalker being a bad guy or doing something bad. It's like, no, he is a paragon of virtue. Right. And the same thing can be said about the Muppets when they rebooted it. And it was too late for them to shift course because people were just turned off. It's like, what are you saying that Miss Piggy and Kermit are not, together? What are you saying about, all these they're not behaving properly or it's off character? Don't do it. And I think that's what they're doing here is that they're giving the Muppets like, this is what you knew and love about the Muppets and let's move forward. And that's what we love.
And that's what they should be doing.
Absolutely.
So,
all right. Well, hey, let us know what you've been watching. Send us those notes and we'll see if we can drop that into our playlist for the week and discuss it right here on the next Skull Rock Podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast, ripped from the headlines. It's Skull Rock Podcast headline news.
Book Club, the next chapter, skimming 7 million upon opening. And of course, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Volume 3, stays on top. Dave, Marvel seems to be back.
Well, Guardians of the Galaxy only dropped 51% into the second weekend, which is actually really good.
Yes, it is.
Considering Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, that dropped like 70%.
Yep.
Which is not good.
Nope. Which is not good. Kind of like their VFX, but
yeah.
Oh God, I'm so bad. I'm so bad.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy is a hit.
Yes.
Certainly it's doing well at the box office, but how about those Super Mario Brothers numbers? I mean, holy smokes.
Yeah. It's universally loved.
It's gone past 1.2 billion globally. Wow.
Yeah. Check out Evil Dead Rise from Warner Brothers, taking a fourth at 1.1 million, only down 33%. Matching the $17 million opening of the franchise's 2013 reboot. So not too shabby. I think they're going to make some money off that.
And by the way, speaking of box office, I was reading a little blurb in the Hollywood Reporter about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is going to be coming out in a few weeks' time. That is tracking for like an 80 million dollar opening weekend so far, and I think it's going to probably crest over 100 million opening weekend. And I saw an extended trailer for that at the head of Guardians of the Galaxy in IMAX, right?
Yeah.
I saw this trailer in IMAX. It's absolutely spectacular, visually spectacular looking.
Well,
I mean, I just cannot wait to see this movie. And I would just say, anybody out there who is an animation fan, put Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse on your list of films to see in a theater, because this just looks beautiful. It's like a comic book come alive.
It's every kid Aljon's dream to see their characters in live action, but to see the care and detail they put into the film as a comic book reader, it's amazing. The first one was amazing.
Yeah.
I think the first one is universally loved. I don't think you'll find anyone that saw that movie that didn't like it. And I think you're going to find the same for this film. I mean, well written, very well animated, and very well scored. Just everything about it. It looks great to me. It looks like $1 million, Dave. It's great.
Beautiful movie. I can't wait to see it.
Neither can I. Well, that should be really good in the coffers of Disney and Sony for Into the Spider-Verse, the next installment. But speaking of animation, Disney CEO Bob Iger praises rival Universal's Super Mario Brothers movie, according to CNBC. They kicked off the company's earnings call by praising Marvel Studios on the success of the blockbuster Super Mario Brothers, which coincidentally is back-to-back Chris Pratt owning the box office
Studios,
this year.
Universal Studios.
Oh, Universal Studios. Yeah, sorry. But Chris Pratt owning it. And the Nintendo-based flick has grossed over $1.1 billion worldwide, where Disney's recent animated offerings have struggled.
Yeah. And this is kind of unusual, but kudos to Bob Iger for calling out, a movie that really is killing it at the box office. And I think it's unusual, but at the same time, I think he's being very cool about it.
Classy move.
Yeah,
classy move.
He's a classy guy, and it was a classy move to give a shout out to Super Mario Brothers. And by the way, it just further shows that they need to take a closer look at Walt Disney Animation Studios and what's going on at Walt Disney Animation Studios, because with Strange World doing as poorly as it did last Thanksgiving, and by the way, Pixar, Lightyear did not do great last year, and those are the two films they seem to be pointing to. I think they have to sort of step back and do an honest assessment of what they're doing as far as filmmaking and the stories they're trying to tell over there. Well,
that's the entire problem, is it not? They have to look at their franchises and go, look, I understand that filmmakers have a voice, they have a story that they want, but I think you have to service the fans. They are the people that ultimately keep those properties going. And it's not for lack of people going to the movies. People want a reason to spend their hard-earned money and going to the movies. And Mario Brothers is an example of them doing it right.
Yeah, and look, I think people, the movies are about escapism,
sure,
John.
Sure.
And people want to go to the movies, and they don't want to have messages crammed down their throats. They don't want to have, different aspects of society crammed down their throats. They want to go to the movies to escape all of that stuff, to enjoy themselves for, an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Top Gun. Top
Gun. Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yep.
And obviously you saw Super Mario Brothers, so you tell me.
Yeah, at 100%. I think people want satisfying stories. They want great characters. Great characters and great stories speak for themselves. They have no agenda. They don't do anything but just entertain, and everything else is surrounding those characters is great. Like I had no problem with the, with any of the other stuff that we talked about at all. But at the end of the day, is it rewatchable? Do I want to watch it again? In the case of Mario Brothers and Guardians of the Galaxy, I've seen them both twice.
Okay, there you have it. I want to go to the movies and have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I want to see a compelling movie that's well made.
Yep.
That's a little different from things I've seen before.
Yep.
And just enjoy it. I don't want to be spoon fed some BS.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's good. You can have all that stuff, but here, once again, Disney's theatrical animated content lag at the box office since the pandemic. We'll talk a little bit about that as well, but they've done great stuff with Universal. The Minions Rise of Gru was just a great, fun film. I did not see Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Dave, did you see that?
I did not see that.
Okay, I have it in the queue. I have yet to see it. I'm gonna have to wait till it streams. I think it's already available on streaming.
I've heard a lot of good things about it, though. I have to tell you.
Well, it's not too late for Disney to pull the nose up. They do have Pixar's Elemental due, as well as Wish later this year. Dave and I have shared our thoughts on those trailers coming to theaters in the holiday season. We'll just have to wait and see. They need to pull the nose up. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of pulling the nose up and maybe bailing, showrunner Tony Gilroy, according to the Hollywood Reporter, ceases producing services on Andor. The creator of the Disney Plus series, singled out on social media performing non-writing duties, tells Hollywood Reporter that he has stopped all functions. Dave, what's up with Tony Gilroy during this WGA strike? What's going on here?
I don't know what to tell you. I just feel like when a strike happens, they really start to focus in on certain people. And Tony Gilroy was a producer, showrunner, and writer on Andor. So I think because the writers are out on strike, they want all their members to stop doing any work.
Yeah.
On these programs. I honestly, I hope that they can settle this writer's strike sooner rather than later. Yep. It's going to be devastating to Los Angeles if the strike goes on for a protracted period of time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so. Come to a great agreement. This happens every few years, but I'm sure they'll be able to come to the table to terms that are agreeable for everybody and keep the jobs and the businesses rolling. And
Aljon, I was going to say though, when a guild goes out, like the writers go out on strike,
yeah.
There's a lot of other crafts and, union guilds in town that will respect those picket lines and they won't go to work. Right. So then when they fully stop production on shows because of a writer strike, then you've got craft services.
Oh, yeah.
You've got scenic houses. You've got so many different aspects of the filmmaking business that grind to a halt, right? Because production shuts down, and that just has a ripple effect through the Los Angeles economy.
Yep.
And I just really pray that they get this resolved and get the writers back to work.
Yeah, it really brings the industry to its knees. But unlike the pandemic, this one is something that can be overcome, hopefully quickly, Dave, as you say. So we'll see.
And by the way, AI is a big factor here.
Sure.
Artificial intelligence, which has been, AI has been in the news so much. Like, in fact, I have to tell you, last Friday, Aljon, I was watching an interview with a CEO of a tech firm. And he literally said there was a 50-50 chance that AI will wipe out humanity. 50-50 chance. This is like, this is like Activate Skynet kind of stuff. The robots are going to wipe out humanity.
Oh man. Oh, take me now.
At least we can laugh about it.
Yeah, we'll laugh about it now. Let's add that to the algorithm. Everything we say into the podcast gets put it in the algorithm. Then you can ask Virtual Dave, what he thinks about AI taking over the world. It's like, well, yes, Aljon, yes, it will take over the world. Indeed. I tell you who else is taking over the world other than AI is Jenna Ortega. She is the hottest thing coming out of Hollywood right now, and she is set to star in Beetlejuice 2. It's set for fall 2024. We'll see how the writer's strike kind of changes things around for this, but I love the fact that we're going to have just an awesome Beetlejuice sequel, because I love the film, the original film with Michael Keaton, which is amazing. Winona Ryder in there as well. It's just great. It's good to see this particular film, and the fact that it is a sequel with Jenna Ortega playing the daughter of Lydia, the character played by Winona Ryder in the very first film, and Michael Keaton coming back as Beetlejuice. I'm excited about this.
And also Tim Burton directing.
Yes.
And they just signed Willem Dafoe.
Oh, Willem Dafoe, one of my favorites.
Is joining the cast. So I cannot wait to see Beetlejuice 2. It's going to be fantastic.
I can't wait either. All right. Another thing we can't wait for, Dave, is one of your favorite shows right now. Joel McHale, Funny Man, is getting renewed for season 2 of Animal Control on Fox. So
this is such a great show, Aljon, and I would highly recommend this to our listeners. If you haven't seen this, you should check it out. You can catch it on Hulu if you've got the Disney Plus and the Hulu ESPN bundle. Check this out on Hulu. Animal Control season 1 is up. They're still dropping episodes, but you can watch quite a number of episodes of season 1. And I was so thrilled when I saw that they renewed this show for season 2.
There you go. I'm going to have to watch it because he is just an insanely funny guy. So definitely in my queue now.
It's a great cast too, by the way.
Right on.
A really great cast.
Indeed. Well, speaking of great casting, a great show, Lauren Cohen, I am such a big fan of The Walking Dead. Lauren Cohen and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, some of my favorite actors and actresses, will be battling zombies once again in the sequel series, another spinoff, Walking Dead Dead City. The spinoff of this flagship series has Maggie, played by Cohen, and Negan, played by Morgan, returning to navigate a post-apocalyptic New York City to rescue her kidnapped son. I saw the trailer, Dave. Once again, it looks like a big hit. We have another big hit on our hands for AMC, which is good, according to the Hollywood Reporter.
It looked terrific to me, and I am gonna see if I can try and watch this once it drops, because I've sort of been hit and miss on the original Walking Dead series. I've watched part of season 1, but I really haven't been able to get into it.
Well, I have something.
Not for a lack of trying, and not because I don't want to. It's a lot of times Nancy isn't in the mood to watch a zombie movie or a zombie show in the evenings.
I get it. Well, here's something to note. If you just watch the season finales, the last 2 episodes of every season leading up to this, you'll get caught up.
Okay.
You'll get caught up.
Sounds
I'm just
great.
telling you. There's a couple things that happen here and yon, but here and yon, Dave, here you go. There's a Southerner in me. There's a couple things here and yon, and I consciously knew that was coming out of my mouth, and I'm like, here's my Southerner coming out. But yes, definitely be sure to check that out for sure. Anyway, that is all for the news this week. Let's move on to our meaty discussion this week. Oh, Dave. It's time for the Aljon and Dave Smackdown of the week. Superhero fatigue, Dave. Is it real? Is it actually happening? I can tell you that we had this article I pulled up. It says over a third of the Marvel fans say they're feeling the franchise fatigue in a new survey. This happened late last year, so it's not nothing new. But a vast majority say they'll still watch anything that Marvel releases. Hero fatigue is real. You've got studios like Marvel and Disney and DC and other franchises as well, like Amazon with The Boys and other things. There's a lot of superhero stuff going on. Is it too much? Are fans getting fatigued? Dave, you mentioned being fatigued when you saw Guardians.
I have to say, when I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I did feel a bit of a superhero fatigue setting in. I liked the movie. I didn't think in ranking it was the best of the three. It was, the first one obviously was the best, I think. The second one was very good. And this one was good. I enjoyed it. But I also felt a bit fatigued while I was watching it. And, I think, and this is just me, I'd like to see them just spread out the releases a little bit more. They just seem to be coming one on top of another. Now, that said, there was a half hour's worth of trailers ahead of the screening I went to. I don't know about you, Aljon.
Oh, yeah.
But the trailer for The Flash, the extended trailer for The Flash is absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And I can't wait to see that. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with the DC franchise now that they have new management folks at the top of it.
Yeah.
But again, how many superhero movies can you cram into the year before you start to really turn off some of the audience because they're just being overwhelmed by it?
Well, I think there was a survey that I had read that most Americans go to the movie theater maybe 3 times a year. Maybe they go at least 3 times a year. I think that was a survey, I think, done by, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. But when there's so many releases, you have to be very picky and choosy about what films to see. And if they feel like maybe they've seen more of the same and nothing new piques them, then maybe they'll just wait to stream it because, let's face it, the window for theatrical release and streaming has reduced considerably. So maybe, within a 4-week period, they could even see this movie, streaming outside of the theater. So
well, look how quickly Air went from the theaters onto Amazon Prime.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of those things. I mean, they're taking advantage of that, but I think the superhero and more indicative, the issue with Marvel right now, I think is, yes, fans may be feeling fatigued. And I think it's because Disney has put so much emphasis on Disney Plus content, because we're seeing it now. The fruits of the labor that went on during the pandemic are being apparent, right? Yeah. So you're seeing films and TV shows that were being made right before the pandemic had shut down. Marvel had kind of had to scramble because everything's so interconnected. A lot of the tissue, interconnective tissue, had to be excised out of those films as a result, and you can see all the behind the scenes, vignettes and featurettes that they put out. Oh, we had to take this scene out because of having to rearrange the film or this, that, and the other. And there was a lack of cohesion, right? In the past couple of years of these films, whether it was the Black Widow film or Shang-Chi, all great films, by the way, and Disney Plus content like Moon Knight or Miss Marvel or She-Hulk, you saw a lot of that stuff kind of excised because of the different shuffling that they had to do. So one thing as a Marvel fan that I loved about the first few phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that everything was interconnected, and you can see a trailer that would go into, or a post-credit scene that would go and lead directly into the next film, or would leave you asking questions about the next release, and peaks of the villains and what they're doing behind the scenes, and everything is leading up to something. The pandemic screwed all that up, Dave.
Yeah. I want to step back for a second because you said like 3% of the public goes to the movies a year.
No, like families tend to go to the theater maybe 3 times a year. Is that
okay? Is
that the right number?
I wanted to mention that I wrote an article a couple of years ago It was in 2018, actually, for the Henry Ford Museum magazine. It's called the Henry Ford Magazine, right? And the article was called Screen Time Paradigm. And in there, I pointed out that in 1930, more than 70% of the U.S. population went to a movie theater weekly. 70% went weekly. And that had dwindled by 2018, had dwindled down to below 10%.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Below 10% go to the movies, which I'm just very sad about this.
Yeah.
Because I think films like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Indiana Jones 5, which is coming up, Mission Impossible, Top Gun, those kinds of films, you really can't get the full effect of those films watching them on a small screen at home.
Right.
Those kinds of films, I mean, Top Gun, I can't even imagine watching that on a home television.
Yeah.
You know, even if you had a 65 or 75 inch screen, I still feel like seeing that in IMAX on the biggest screen you can see it on is an incredible experience.
Yes.
It really is. And I'll continue to say that. And I really, you know, I really believe that people should go out to the movies and have that communal experience on these types of tentpole movies. There's nothing like it.
Right.
You know, that's what these movies were made for. These movies were made to be seen on large, big screens in auditoriums with great sound systems.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, Dave, you're 100% right. It's the immersive experience. It's a communal experience. It's kind of the modern equivalent of gather around the fire, right? Much like a lot of people did at the advent of the television. I think people, and this is something that we missed, especially during the pandemic. And I think a lot of that kind of shine had kind of gone away. It's experiencing films together as a community. I think that's super, super cool. It was a Gallup poll, by the way, Dave, that said young adults under the age of 30 reported seeing an average of 3.2 movies over a course of a year.
You know, under 30, though, I mean, this is a generation that they're watching their content on a phone.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that to me is just horrible.
Yeah,
absolutely horrible. You know, it's one thing to watch a TikTok video or to watch something on YouTube that's a minute or 2 or 3 long, but to sit there and watch, you know, a movie on your phone, which I see people doing on airplanes, that's insanity.
Yeah.
You miss so much, you know, and I always use the example years ago. I had watched Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart numerous times on television and on VHS and DVD.
Yep.
But I never saw that movie really until I had seen an anniversary screening and a restored print of the film at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I think it was in the early 90s, it was like a 50th anniversary screening.
Mm-hmm.
And it was absolutely eye-opening how much more you see on a big screen.
Oh, yeah.
And these films are made for the big screen experience. And when you shrink a film down to a phone, there's just so much you miss. I don't know how you can enjoy that.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've never watched a film on a phone. Never. I just can't.
I'm guilty of doing so, but I can tell you that you want to know how popular films like Return of the Jedi are. Look at how they celebrated the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, putting it back in theaters and having sellout audiences everywhere they screen it.
Yeah.
You know, this is a film that I didn't see on the big screen. Well, I know I actually did see Return of the Jedi on the big screen growing up, and I loved it. I think I saw it like 15 times in a theater, but I didn't see the original Star Wars until it was reissued, right?
Yeah.
And case in point, the average number of Americans prior to the pandemic in 2007 had young people from 18 to 29 go to the theaters at least an average of 9 times a year. 30 to 49, 4.5 times, 50 to 64, 3 times, and 65 and over twice. In 2021, during the pandemic and near post-pandemic, 3.2, 1, 0.8, 0.5. I mean, it literally just sucked the life out of the theaters, and it's something that we're still experiencing today. What is going to bring people back to the theaters is a question, but how fatigued people are with the Marvel franchise. Maybe a big Avengers film will help with that, but I think now that to tie it all together, now that we're seeing the results of the pandemic era of Disney and Marvel kind of wash itself away, Kevin Feige seems to be going back to the reins, and now that Bob Iger's back there, it's de-emphasizing the amount of content and focusing on quality of content and spacing it out so that there is not that sense of pushing too much superhero films and content down people's throat. Right, Dave?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with you. But you asked the question, what's going to bring people back to the theaters? The hipsters. I have full faith in the hipster crowd. You know why? Because the hipsters, they've brought back vinyl records.
Yeah.
The hipsters are bringing back camera with film.
Yeah.
So come on, hipsters, start getting out to the movie theaters. It's a hip thing to do.
It's a hip thing to do. Give them hip content. What they need to do is bring some classic films back, maybe in some screenings to put butts in the seats. I think it's like, I liken it to how you see new bands tour. See, here's the music industry coming in. How new bands tour versus how some of the classic bands tour.
Yeah.
They sell out stadiums. You look at Taylor Swift now. Yes, she has, her tour is the Eras tour. So she's been at it for quite some time, Dave, and she's selling out arenas for multiple nights. We talked about Aerosmith, selling out their farewell tour because they know how to perform and how it's done. Rolling Stones, same thing.
The Rolling Stones, yeah. Exactly.
Case in point, Bruce Springsteen, same thing. It's like
they can all fill stadiums.
Yep, they can all fill stadiums and large arenas. They're giving people what they want. They're giving people the hits. That's not a bad thing. If you give people what they want, great stories, things that they can relate to, they'll come back. They'll come back because people want to escape. People want to hear the hits. People want to live vicariously through the people that they see on stage, or in this case, the big screen, Dave.
Look, the Fathom Events does screenings of classic films, anniversary screenings of classic films on a regular basis. And I go to a lot of those, and I'm very surprised at, how few people go to some of those. I mean, when I saw To Kill a Mockingbird with Gregory Peck, beautiful digitally restored and projected print, version of the film. It was absolutely spectacular. And that particular film, there seemed to be, a reasonable number of people. But when I say reasonable, there might have been like a quarter of the theater. When I saw The African Queen in the theater as an anniversary screening, there might have been 10%. In the Heat of the Night with Sidney Poitier, there was probably a third of the theater. There was a bigger turnout because it's a film from the 60s as opposed to a film from the 40s. But again, seeing some of those fantastic classic films, those films that are on, the Library of Congress registry, they're, on lists of the 100 best films ever made kind of things with AFI and all that. These are the films that people should be running and packing theaters to see because they're spectacular and they don't get screened in a movie house very often.
Right. I like seeing those old classics, and Fathom Events did a great thing. You know, I think they recently did a screening of Star Trek Picard and their 2-part season, I guess, series finale. I would have loved to see that in my local theater. It was nowhere in sight. But, you know, once again, give people what they want, you know, and they'll come back. I think part of the things, like I said, that plagued Marvel is that we're putting out too much content, trying to do too many things too quickly to try to squeeze blood out of consumers' wallets as well. And I think it showed. Ant-Man Quantumania had such potential, and I personally like the film a lot. But you can tell there are places where they could have spent a little bit more love and care and attention to detail in terms of the visual effects and some other things. The writing could have been much stronger for a lot of the character development, but man, you know, it's still a great film, but of course it got railed. And then you look at a film like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 that clearly had a lot of great writing. I mean, this is a story that James Gunn had put together before he was released from Marvel. You know, three years ago. We would have had this 3-4 years ago if it wasn't for, you know, his being let go hastily, by the way. I don't think even Bob Iger liked how that went. Well, maybe it was him, but for whatever reason, it really hurt Marvel letting him go.
Well, you know, look, we're in the middle of a cancel culture where there's knee-jerk reactions to things, and people are being sacked and their careers are being derailed way too quickly.
Right.
Way too quickly.
Right.
And it's absolutely ridiculous. They need to sort of slow down and, you know, look at these things a little bit more carefully. And you know, I'm going to sit here and be the first to tell you that the knee-jerk reaction has hurt people, not just the people that it's targeted towards, but the people who are trying, you know, the companies. You know, look at what happened with Disney. You know, they buckled to a few people crying and saying that they should be standing up for something, and Bob Chapek then, you know, capitulates on you know, wanting to work behind the scenes on something. He capitulates, comes out and says what this small group of people want him to say, and then, you know, the company gets hosed and is embroiled in something that's going to go on for the next year or two, right, before it ever gets resolved, or longer. You know, I mean, it's crazy. And that kind of dovetails into what we were going to talk about with the Florida theme park expansion.
Right. So let's move on then to the expansion of the theme parks. Moving on with Bob Iger, he did say in a recent investor call that theme park expansions are incoming or forthcoming, right? And in this particular call that happened just a few days ago, he says, quote, "We have a number of growth and expansion opportunities at our parks, and we are closely evaluating where it makes sense, in most sense, to direct future investments." And so there you go. Disney theme parks brought in over $7 billion in revenue over this past year. That's a lot globally. And it looks like they're, you know, doing a bunch of stuff. I mean, we recently had Toontown get revamped, and it looks great over there at Disneyland. They're revamping some things over at Epcot. They've recently put in so many new attractions over there as well at Walt Disney World. Dave, what do you think? I mean, this whole thing with DeSantis versus Disney right now is not good. But like I told you, all they have to do is wait out DeSantis. And if they wanted to open up another gate, they have plenty of land in order to do that there in Florida.
You know, I'm going to step back for a second because I do want to just point out that Walt Disney, when he opened Disneyland, you know, his philosophy was that the park would never be finished. It was always something that was ever evolving and changing. And so the fact that Iger has said that the company is going to be investing $17 billion into Walt Disney World over the next 10 years. And that they're going to be adding, thousands of jobs because of it.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that, what's going on with DeSantis and the company is craziness. You can't say any more than that. It's just absolute craziness. Since when can't a company or an individual speak an opinion without being persecuted the way DeSantis is persecuting Disney?
Right.
I mean, DeSantis has weaponized politics against Disney. And, there's dozens of other companies in Florida who felt the same way Disney felt about that legislation. And he's not doing, DeSantis isn't going after those companies. He's going after Disney.
Right.
And I think this whole thing is awful. It's ridiculous. It makes DeSantis out to be nothing but a schoolyard bully. And I hope Disney kicks his butt in court for all this is going on. Now, that said, if I were at the top of Disney sitting there going, we're going to put $17 billion into a state that's kicking the crap out of us like this, maybe they should, instead of opening a new theme park on the property at Walt Disney World, maybe they should look at going someplace else to build, say, a Marvel themed park, maybe in the center of the country. How about Missouri? Go to Southern Missouri, Walt Disney was from Kansas City, Missouri, go someplace else and build a whole brand new Marvel theme park, outside of Florida. Well, and then you got the whole center of the country, people to come visit that park.
It certainly could do that. I mean, part of the agreement they had with Universal is the fact that they couldn't open up Marvel characters past the, I guess the Universal past the Mason-Dixon line, right? So you have those type of characters staying within Universal in Orlando, but if they open up another theme park there in the Midwest, certainly they can use all of their Marvel IP in their own theme park.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely, and again, why would you maintain and expand the existing parks with new rides and things like that, but opening another gate in Orlando, why do that now? Certainly it makes sense because you have all the land, but with all the issues going on with the Florida state government and the dissolution of the Reedy Creek Special District and them putting in this Orange County Tourist Board for oversight. I mean, why bother? Yeah. Why bother? Go buy a huge tract of land someplace else. Why not? And if you want to stay on the East Coast, stay on the I-95 corridor. You got plenty of places in Georgia. You got plenty of places in South Carolina, North Carolina. You go right up the I-95 corridor.
There you go. Well, there's a lot of different things there, but I think that it's great, though, that the parks will continue to grow, evolve, and expand, and the fans demand it. I think the fans are at a fever pitch for attending theme parks right now. Things have slowly gotten back to normal in regards to staffing, and that'll continue. And I'm hoping that Bob is right. Just continue making the parks a premier destination and a premium experience for people that want to spend their hard-earned money and experience the best that Disney has to offer. That comes, part of that is at the parks and definitely at the theaters as well. As we talk about the quality control when it comes to the storytelling that's involved. So that's a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah. And by the way, did you read that they're dropping the reservation requirement?
Yes, we did a Dining at Disney episode about that. So they're dropping the reservation requirements. They're bringing back the Disney dining plan at Walt Disney World. And this is all great moves. I think They've done a really good job working, Iger working with Josh D'Amaro at Parks, are doing things that fans are really have been clamoring for, and that makes people feel better that they're spending their money at the right place, that they have flexibility in where they choose to go on their vacation and where they want to spend their money.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic, and it's only speaks volumes for the fans. It's good for the fans.
100%. I feel good about it now. I felt very restrictive when I got my annual pass, but because it's hard when you've been offering those type of amenities to guests for so many years, and I've been annual pass holders for 20 years or whatever, Dave, and now I feel like I'm getting my money's worth. Now I feel good about spending my money at the parks. So
good.
Yep.
Good. And that's the way it should be. Really.
It should be. Now, Dave, you've worked on this project from its inception to now 35 years later. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is coming out, or I guess the anniversary is coming up here in June for this landmark film, Dave. What are your thoughts as you reflect back on 35 years of Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
My God, I ran into Don Hahn last week and we chatted, and he mentioned that 35 years. It felt like the 25th anniversary was like last month, and so it's hard to believe that it's been 35 years since I worked on this movie with an incredible team of people. I mean, oh my gosh, and Aljon, I worked on it in London.
Yeah.
So I lived in London and worked out of the Camden Town studio with Richard Williams, who was the animation director. And I honestly, it's just one of those films that I think has really held up really, really well.
Yeah.
Since it was first screened. Now, next June, this next month, it's 35 years. And I think the movie holds up really well. I'd be curious to hear from our listeners about what they think.
Yeah.
But considering that film was not done with any computer compositing technology, it's pretty spectacular.
I think so. I recently did a rewatch of Who Framed Roger Rabbit with the kiddos, and I think it holds up really well. The whatever technology, Dave, rotoscoping, whatever you guys did with those hand painted frames and things of that nature, whatever the terminology is, I leave that to you guys. I just sit back and enjoy. For a film that's 35 years old to hold up in terms of storytelling, in terms of technology, as Roger Rabbit, that's just it's a landmark film. $351 million at the box office globally. That's nothing to sneeze about. It's a great film, and it was put together with a lot of love, and I think we appreciate it. Plus, something we never really talk about is the brilliant music by Alan Silvestri. I love Alan Silvestri music. He has scored so much great films over time, and recently did the Avengers Endgame soundtrack, but he's done so much for a longtime collaborator of Amblin Entertainment and Steven Spielberg. So yeah, it's great music, great animation, great story. I know I wasn't involved in the film, but I was a fan and I did see it in the theaters, Dave. You'll be happy about that. What a great film. But I hope we're able to get some more talk about this landmark film in the months to come to celebrate.
I'm trying to book a couple of animators that worked on some key sequences in that film. So we're going to get them on later in June, and closer to the actual anniversary. And it's just one of those films where I have such fond memories, Aljon. So many fond memories of working on the picture, of living in London, of meeting, the crew was such an international crew. And because I lived in London and made friends with a lot of different people, not only in animation, but other people that I met while I was living in London, I'm fortunate to say that I have friends all over the world. I have good friends down in Australia. I have friends around Europe, in the UK, just an incredible group of people that came together to make that movie. And I'm kind of sad that they never really made a go of holding that team together to make other movies in London. It would have been great, but it just wasn't in the cards.
So you alluded to another film keeping the team together. Was there talk to do a sequel to this, especially with the tie-in with Warner Brothers characters and Disney characters together? Was there talk about a sequel?
Well, there was talk about doing another film, but there had been talk about doing a sequel, and there still is talk about doing a sequel.
Yeah.
It just has never really materialized, which is kind of a shame. But some films you just don't need to do a sequel.
It's true.
There's some movies that you just don't really need to. They stand on their own. You leave it by itself. It'd be like somebody trying to do a sequel to Casablanca.
Right.
It just isn't going to really work.
Yeah, I feel the same about the Back to the Future trilogy. They should just leave that one alone.
Why? They're going to try and do something with that?
They've been teasing to do a reboot of that series forever. And I'm like, you're never going to capture the magic. You're just not. You're not going to capture Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd.
And for them to try and do something like that without Michael J. Fox and without
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd. Yep. I mean, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. Well, and without Robert Zemeckis, because Robert Zemeckis is not going to want to do it either.
Right.
So, so let's talk about this film. One thing I wanted to ask you is in the animated sequences in the bar where they are doing the Disney and Warner Brothers characters together, you're seeing scenes shared by Daffy Duck and by Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny together. With Disney, I understand, they usually have lead animators for certain characters so that there's a consistency where all the characters. Was there somebody at Warner Brothers that did all the different animation for those particular characters, or was it all done by a single person, or was it all done by the Disney team?
No, it was done by the team they pulled together for the movie. Okay. Right. Because you got to realize the bulk of the animation was done in London. But there was an animation team in Los Angeles that primarily focused on the Toontown sequence, but did other scenes. And without giving it away, I was trying to get one of the animators on who actually worked on that sequence with Donald Duck and Daffy Duck at the piano, like dueling pianos.
Yeah.
Again, when you do animation, you're casting characters to the animator's strengths, so the animator who did Daffy Duck, really channeled the Warner Brothers style, the Warner Brothers animation style. And that's really what you have to do in those kinds of films.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was curious how that went back and forth between the different animators. But like we've seen, the Disney animators are so well skilled and versed in multiple art styles that they can certainly have a character jump off the page from a Disney quote unquote classic golden era Disney style versus, something like a Warner Brothers style, or something of that nature. And I think it's just one of the scenes that'll probably last the test of time. This film lasts the test of time, but those scenes are just landmark scenes because I don't know if we'll ever see a team up like that again. And I wish we would. All.
I don't think so. And I think as the years go by, the 2D talent, they're retiring and, moving on. And I don't know if you could actually pull together that kind of level of animation talent today,
Well, I feel like you guys were the Beatles and the Rolling Stones all mixed into one. I mean, you had all of the, all the future Hall of Famers in one room, if you will, for that time. So, kudos to that. Yes, the kids are screaming in the background. Have mercy on me.
Oh, well, we're talking about Roger Rabbit. I mean, they're
exactly.
fans.
Yeah, they are. They're huge fans. They're huge fans. They're also huge fans of the Three Little Pigs. I have to say that Three Little Pigs growing up was one of my favorite Disney animated shorts, and the fact that I had the Big Bad Wolf stay on top of my amplifier all throughout high school, my gigs, and then somebody stole it. But my high school girlfriend was like, "Hey, you're such a big fan of Disney. I wanted to give you this." When she went to Walt Disney World, got me the Big Bad Wolf, and I put him on my amplifier. That it was just solidified right there. Three Little Pigs is awesome, and 90 years old, Dave. That's a huge landmark for this project.
That's right. Next week is the 90th anniversary of Three Little Pigs, the Walt Disney Silly Symphonies cartoon, and really probably one of the most popular cartoons to come out of the 1930s. It won an Academy Award. The Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf was a huge hit on radio in the 1930s, and the short spawned a number of sequels, if you will. And I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live event on Thursday, May 25th. And by the way, depending on the sources you look at, it either released on May 25th or May 27th, 90 years ago. So let's just call it next week. 90 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live event with the Wonderful World of Animation. Neil Cantor and I are going to be discussing Three Little Pigs and talking about some of the behind the scenes stories, who the animators were that worked on it, the music, also. A little known fact that a scene was reanimated in the 1940s.
What?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that and go into detail about it. So it's Facebook Live event on Thursday, May 25th with the Wonderful World of Animation. You can find out more on Instagram. Neil's been posting, the Wonderful World of Animation has been posting stuff on Instagram about it. And maybe, Aljon, you'll find a link to put into the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do it. And last time we did the live stream, I went ahead and put it on our Facebook page as well, so people can stream it directly from our Facebook page. Cool. It's great content. I definitely suggest you like and hit that bell for notifications on our Facebook page whenever we post new content, especially when it comes to Dave doing these live streams. They're absolutely fascinating. So mark your calendars for this Thursday, May 25th, Wonderful World of Animation. Yes, Dave.
And the other thing I was going to say, I think the Silly Symphonies are really fantastic. If people haven't seen them or watched a lot of them lately, you should really check them out, because the Silly Symphonies were a training ground. It was an area of experimentation for the Disney artists in the 1930s. And a lot of what they were doing and experimenting with and learning about applied to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The Old Mill, the short that won an Academy Award, that was a Silly Symphony. They did a lot of experimentation with the multiplane camera on that short, and all of the stuff they learned, they applied to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and other feature films that Walt was doing at that, that period, leading into those great films like Pinocchio and Bambi, and the list goes on and on. So absolutely, if you have a chance, check out some of those Silly Symphony cartoons. I like to watch them every once in a while, and you can find them on YouTube. They're, just Google it, and you'll find a link to where you can watch one of them.
Yeah, they're on the Plus, Dave. So you can check it out on Disney Plus.
They're on Disney Plus. Yep, exactly.
You can go ahead and check them out on Disney Plus.
But by the way, not all of them are on Disney.
Well,
Plus,
that's true. Not all of them are,
because there's some where they look at it and so the PC police say, "Oh my God, gosh, we can't put that up there, because someone's gone or something.
It's like, someone get Leonard Maltin stat. We need an intro for this.
Exactly. Yeah. All right.
We definitely need Leonard Maltin to do a little bit of that for sure. But gang, we've come to yet another end for another show, and thank you so much for being part of this journey with us. As my children are yelling in the background, it means Daddy has to go. So if you love Disney and pop culture, be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. Give us those likes and subscribes: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can follow me, Aljon Go, on Instagram, and send us those emails as well at aljon@skullrockpodcast.com or Dave at skullrockpodcast.com. Dave, I'm going to have you just take it for a minute.
All right. So, Aljon, I would tell our audience, if you have a moment and you want to read a little bit more about theater experience and all of that, you can read my article, Screen Time Paradigm, that I wrote for the Henry Ford Museum magazine. You can read that on my website at davidbossert.com under articles. Check it out there. And as always, if you're looking for a signed copy of one of my books, you can go to theoldmillpress.com, one of our sponsors. And with that, I will tell you all, as I do every week, go out, have a fantastic week, and we will see you back here next Monday on the Skull Rock Podcast.